Hi there, Donna Green Goodman, and we're cooking up good health. If you've been told by your doctor that macaroni and cheese is not on your list of things to eat anymore, you better not move because I've got good news for you. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. One of the favorite things I have ever done is to create healthy recipes. When I lived in Atlanta, my husband and I were fortunate enough to be able to teach other people how to improve their health by showing them simple principles that they could use in their own lives. We managed a lifestyle center called Lifestyle Principles. And one of the things that I began to notice was, as people started coming into the clinic, no matter what the doctor told them as far as you need to lose weight, you need to reduce your blood sugars, they always got stumped when it came to, well, what am I supposed to eat? He told me I can't eat mac and cheese anymore. He told me I can't eat red meat anymore. He told me I can't eat onions anymore, some of them would say. And so with all the recipes that I have in the book, Something to Shout About, I was becoming challenged to start to develop things to meet the needs of other people. And so today, we are going to cook the macaroni and cheese, but we're going to cook that a little later on in the show. The first thing that we're going to cook is another one skillet. If you want to put it in a skillet, it's an easy way to do it. Or if you just have a pot like this is another way to do it. And this one actually came from my students at Oakwood University when I was teaching the vegetarian cuisine class. As in most of the recipes that I prepare, we're going to start it out with some onions and bell pepper. And whenever I made this at home, my son and my husband called it goulash. If you've got kids who are not quite sure that they want to eat whole grain pastas, this is one way to get them to eat it because it's actually covered inside of the pasta that you put on the sauce, and then it doesn't look so unbelievably not good to them. And so what we want to do is saute these onions and bell peppers, and then of course, as I have spoken on other shows, if you want to put some kind of meat, because this is really like what you have in Hamburger Helper, except you're in charge of putting in what's in it. And so many times when you're trying to cook more healthfully, you're not sure how to do it. So you can put in beans if you want, or vegetables if you want, or you could put in a light turkey or something if you're trying to eat healthier meats. But of course, I always like to recommend those soy products that are on the market. And the one I'm using today is a TVP, a textured vegetable protein, that has a kind of sausage taste to it. And it makes everything that I've ever added it to taste exceptionally good. We're going to put that in the pan and stir that around and kind of saute it. And as it is sauteing, I would like to suggest that you try and figure out one of the recipes, perhaps that you're already making like this, that you might want to change to make into a healthier version. And the easiest way to do that, if you're not ready to use the soy burger, you can instead just use the whole grain pasta in place of the white pasta that you've been using, because we're kind of trying to continue here today how you can cook up grains and make them real healthy for you. Once you get this stirred around and sauteed, this is so easy, you're not going to believe how easy it is. Then you take what's about a 12-ounce box of whole grain pasta. I've decided to use the penne pasta, but if you want to use elbow macaroni, if you can find the vegetable ones that children like, that will probably be exciting for them for little children. Then you take this and you just dump it in the pan. And I think when I began to start cooking up pasta dishes, part of not wanting to cook pasta dishes is you have to boil the pasta till it's al dente, and you don't always get it exactly as you want. But this way, everything is done right here in the pot, and the pasta cooks up, and the longer you cook it, the more tender it becomes. And if you like it a little tougher, then you can do it that way. The next thing I add is 1 jar of my favorite spaghetti or marinara sauce. When my husband and I first got married, I used to slave over the stove and make the best, I believe, homemade spaghetti sauce that he had ever tasted. Well, one day I went to the store and brought a national brand. And when he got home and ate the dish that day, he's like, Donna, what in the world did you put in the spaghetti this time? And I was a little offended because I thought I was making the best spaghetti sauce that he had ever had. And I explained to him that I had decided to put a jar of sauce in it. And he's like, well, you need to keep doing that because this is really good. And so choose whichever one you want. There's a student of mine now who has just gotten married and they're expecting their first baby. And I went shopping with her one day and showed her that you don't even have to buy the national brand. Buy what you can afford. And even when you're buying this whole grain pasta, there are so many national store chains now that have decided to market their own version of whole grain pasta, and it's much less expensive, because another one of the arguments I hear when we're teaching people how to eat more healthfully is that it's more expensive. And I will admit that initially it may cost a little more than what you're used to doing, but you're going to pay your money. Do you want to pay it up front, or do you want to pay it when you're laying in a hospital because you've had a stroke or a heart attack, and then you have to go somewhere and get some therapy for it? Now, when I cooked this for my students, they told me, Mrs. Goodman, make sure you put plenty of garlic in there. So I'm going to put some garlic in here. And I really, really love basil. So I'm going to put some basil in there. And then I think I'm going to add a little more water. And then I'm going to stir it up. And it's going to continue to cook and simmer here. And I'll adjust the seasonings if I need to. And by the time this show is done, you will be so happy that you decided to join us here. And you'll be ready to run into your kitchen and cook up some good health for your family. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, so the most exercise you get is using your thumb to change the remote. Do you know what benefits you'd gain if you got up and walked? Walking as a regular form of exercise does more than make you lose weight. Walking helps to lower blood sugar, strengthen the heart, lower blood pressure, lower bad cholesterol, raise good cholesterol, relieve stress, relieve depression, increase energy, improve circulation, help us sleep better, strengthen our bones, and decrease our risk for diabetes, heart disease, cancer, arthritis, and osteoporosis. Just 30 to 40 minutes a day of active exercise will give you the maximum benefit. If you can't do it all at once, break up your time into 2 to 3 shorter time periods. If it's cold outside, dress warmly. If it's raining lightly, use an umbrella. If you like company, invite a friend or neighbor. If you need a safe place, join a walking group at the mall. If you really want to improve your health, just put down the remote, rise, make up your bed, and start a walking program today. Welcome back. I just checked the goulash while you were on break, and it's looking really wonderful. I've added a little more water, and because of the ingredients that I put in there, everything looks like it's okay. We didn't need to add any more seasoning. So in a few minutes, this will be ready for you to look at and go to the store and get the ingredients and make. The next thing I'm going to make is my version of a rice-a-roni. When I started making the lifestyle changes so that I could live a healthier life, like my family wanted me to do, and I could be around for a longer time, I noticed that a lot of the instant mixes on the market had some ingredients in them that I didn't want to eat anymore. And I loved rice-a-roni. So what I decided to do was make some myself. And here's all you have to do. 1 stalk of celery, and either a small onion or half of a large onion. And if your family doesn't like as much onion as you do, you don't have to put as much in it. We're going to saute this in a little olive oil. And once it gets nice and sauteed, we're just going to add some instant brown rice. And we're going to add some whole wheat spaghetti. You know how when you eat rice-a-roni, it has those little noodly things in there? Well, most of the noodly things that are in there are not made from whole grains. And so when you take whole grain spaghetti, the long ones, and sometimes you can get the vermicelli whole grain, or you can get the thin spaghetti whole grain, but I just took the regular whole grain spaghetti, and then I broke it up into little pieces we're going to just add that to this dish. So in the end, this dish is going to be so full of fiber, completely free of anything that's going to raise your cholesterol or your blood pressure or your heart disease, because we want to decrease all the risk associated with those diseases so that you can live a healthier lifestyle and be around. I am so thankful. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my son was 7 years old, I believe, and now he's almost a junior in college, and I'm so thrilled that my life has been spared. And I'm so thankful that I found simple ways to incorporate healthy eating into the way that I live. We're going to go ahead and add the rice. We're going to put in 1.5 cups of the instant brown rice, whatever brand you are able to get wherever you live. And then we're going to add about 1/2 cup of this whole grain spaghetti, and we're going to stir it around. Now, the kind of rice-a-roni that I like was the one that had the almonds in it and that was kind of tan in color when it was finished cooking. And so in order to get this to be that color, I'm going to add a little turmeric. And turmeric is a root that is excellent for people if indeed they are having any kind of cancer issues and if they're having inflammatory diseases. We're just going to add enough of that. You have to be really careful when you use turmeric because it's really strong. A lot of times you will find turmeric in like mustard, and I actually use this in place of mustard because it is much better for you than the actual mustard is, and some of the ingredients that are in mustard as well. You play with how much turmeric you want to put in there. I think I'm going to put a little more because that's not quite the color that I want. And I know some of you, I was just doing a presentation down in Birmingham for the Home Economics Association for the state of Alabama. And I was showing them some of these very ideas, and I told them that sometimes people ask me for how much did you put in this or how much did you put in that. And I know when you're writing a book, like when I wrote my book, I had to be really careful and put all that information in there because I want you to be able to replicate the recipe and have a good turnout if I'm telling you how to make it. But in the South, you never know exactly how much of anything you're putting in there because you never know exactly how much you're cooking and how many people are coming over. Especially if you live where you have a garden and you bring in a mess of greens or a bunch of tomatoes and cook it up because family's on the way, and then you have to add something else to it to stretch it so that other people are going to be able to eat. The other thing that I might add to this for flavor would be this vegetable seasoning, which tastes kind of like chicken broth, but doesn't have any cholesterol or saturated fat in there. And again, you don't have to add this if you don't want to. If there's some other flavors of the rice-a-roni that you like, you're welcome to use that. And then finally, I'm going to add twice as much liquid as the amount of grains I put in here. And that means we're going to put 4 cups of water. And then we're going to bring this back to a boil. The first time I made this, my husband looked at me and said, "I thought you weren't eating rice-a-roni anymore." I said, "Well, we are now because I came up with this great recipe." Once this comes back to a boil, we'll turn it down to a simmer, and then we'll cover it and let it soak up all this liquid. And by the time it's time for us to go, you'll be able to see how wonderful this is, how easy it was to make, how wonderful the goulash is, and oh, that's right, macaroni and cheese. We have to make macaroni and cheese, right? What is dinner in the South if you don't have macaroni and cheese? One more little story. When I got married, I told my husband, "This is the best macaroni and cheese you have ever had." And he looked at me and said, "Really, it's not. You need to add a few more things to it." So I listened to him. But many of the things that we traditionally add to macaroni and cheese have harmful effects on our bodies. And so within the last 2 years, I've come up with a macaroni and cheese that is for you not to die for. This is for you to live for. If you sit right where you are, when you come back, I will show you exactly how to make it. Get a pen and pencil out because you're going to want to write this down so that you can serve it this weekend to your family. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll see you in a few minutes. Looking to improve your health? You might think twice before you grab that cup of coffee. Caffeine is a stimulant that picks you up, but only temporarily. But you already knew that, right? I wonder if you knew that caffeine is addictive, elevates blood sugar and triglycerides, increases blood pressure, worsens PMS symptoms, increases stomach acid secretion, causes insomnia, irregular heartbeat, and increased stimulation of the nervous system, overriding the body's need for rest. To really make it through the day, tap into the body's own natural stimulant, rest. The rest we gain during nightly sleep is vitally important to help the body respond to the duties of the day. It also helps diabetics respond better to insulin. The 3 hours between 9 p.m. and midnight are the best time to go to sleep because those 3 hours are really worth 6 to the body. During that time, the body restores itself to get you ready for the next full day. And when the body is fully rested, you awaken, usually without an alarm and with enough energy to face the day without that cup of coffee. Join the celebration. Get some rest starting tonight. Welcome back. I told you that we were going to make some macaroni and cheese today that you are not going to believe. And look at it. We just took it out of the oven. Can you believe that you can have 1, 2, maybe 3 helpings of this and not worry that you are going to be exhausted when you finish eating, or that when you go back to the doctor the next time your blood cholesterol is going up, or that you're going to gain weight? I think eating this way, losing weight, is one of the best benefits of it. I can remember when I first started eating this way, I went to this lifestyle center in North Georgia, and in 10 days, I lost 10 pounds. You can't beat it. There's no way you can beat it. We've been talking about the kind of grains that you can use that are whole grain. And when you're making the transition from the traditional diet to this kind of diet, sometimes you want to still have something that looks like what you used to eat. And so the pasta that is in this pan, although it looks like traditional semolina, this is actually a semolina soy blend. So there's soy in this pasta. And if you are already converted and want to do nothing but whole grains, you could also do the whole wheat pasta, macaroni noodles, or you could do the rice macaroni noodles. There's in some stores, there are actually multi-grain ones that you can buy, whatever your family is interested. But right now, what we're going to do is get this started. We have started by using a different macaroni. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of a soy-based margarine. You have to be careful when you're using margarines because of the trans fat that's in there. But if you look closely, either at a health food store or the health food section of a major grocery store, you should be able to find some margarines that don't have any trans fat. And then if you're allergic to dairy products, you can also find some other ones there that don't have any problems. The next thing that you put in macaroni and cheese is cheese. I finally found a cheese that is not going to cause me any trouble and is made from soy, so it's totally non-dairy, and it melts because good macaroni and cheese has to melt, or you just need to leave it wherever you got it from. So we're going to put this cheese in here. This might be about 3 cups, and we're going to save 1/3 of that to put on top of the macaroni. Now, I did some research and I looked through some old Southern cookbooks, and I looked in some African American cookbooks, and I found that one of the things that traditionally goes in macaroni and cheese, especially in the South, is sour cream. There is a wonderful sour cream that's on the market that, of course, is non-dairy, so it's not going to cause you any trouble if you have problems with dairy. And this is the one that I was speaking to one of the producers of the show, saved my marriage, because my husband was about to die when I took sour cream out of the refrigerator. And then when we found this one, he was so excited, and it tastes just like, looks just like, and it adds a real good creaminess to this macaroni. Now, traditionally, cheese has a strong flavor because of the way that it's processed. And so the way we're going to add that strong flavor is by adding about 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And then the other thing that happens with cheese is it's really high in sodium. So we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt to this recipe. And you might think, well, that's an awful lot of salt. But there is not a lot of sodium in this cheese. I boiled the macaroni noodles in unsalted water, so you could probably stand to have a little of the salt in here. And usually I do about 1 teaspoon per cup of noodles. Looking kind of good, isn't it? All right. Now we're going to add milk, and of course I'm using a non-dairy milk. I never really have liked regular, traditional milk. because it just didn't taste so good to me. But then once I drank it, my stomach started bubbling, and you know what else happened. So when I decided to eat more healthfully, at first I started eating the lower fat or the non-fat version, and then I just converted over to a replacement. And I prefer a soy-based one, but there are plenty of them on the market. Some of them are rice milks, some of them are nut milks, and of course you can use those as well. Now the recipe that I'm using calls for about 2 cups of milk, but this looks like I wanted to make it a little soupier, so I'm going to put a little more milk in here. And this is just a plain one. It doesn't have any vanilla flavoring in it or not. Now, how am I going to season it? I'm going to add something called nutritional yeast flakes, about 1/2 cup, that gives you a real good cheesy flavor. And these yeast flakes are a plant product. They're not the kind of yeast that you would use if you were going to be baking bread or biscuits. You know those biscuits that we've been talking about? But this is a nutritional yeast product that's good for flavoring food. And it is an excellent source of vitamin B12, because one of the things that people wrestle with when they're making this change, you know I'm supposed to be healthier if I'm eating this way, but how am I going to get my vitamin B12? Well, nutritional yeast is an excellent source of vitamin B12. Now, let's see what it tastes like. Too bad you're not here, because this is so good. I'm going to add a little more milk. And then, oh my goodness, I know I look a mess, don't I? But it's just so good. That's better? Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of this seasoning that I've been recommending that is non-animal fat, non-cholesterol, non a lot of other things that are going to mess with your life. And I'm going to put that in there, and I think that's about all this is going to call for. And then we're going to step over here to this Pyrex dish that's waiting for it. And we're going to pour it in the Pyrex dish. Doesn't that look good? Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to serve, well, this could serve. I don't know how many it's going to serve. But this could serve, if everybody got one nice healthy serving, about 8 to 10 people. But usually when I make it in my house, and my husband and son are coming right in the door as it's coming out the oven, and it looks like that one over there, it doesn't last very long. And very recently, I don't know what happened, I know, my son had a bunch of his friends over for dinner, and I made the macaroni and cheese for them. And when they were gone, all the mac and cheese was gone. So the next day my husband comes in the house, he's like, Donna, where's the mac and cheese? I said, it's gone. I said, it's all gone. He said, what do you mean it's all gone? I said, it's gone. He said, where's the recipe? I'm going to make it myself. Ladies, if you can get a man in the kitchen making macaroni and cheese for you, you talking about something to shout about. We had a wonderful rest of the day. You put this cheese on top, and because, again, this is plant-based cheese, it's not going to melt quite like the cheese that you are used to eating. So I always recommend, if you make this, that you take a cover, if your Pyrex dish has a cover and you don't want to use aluminum foil, or just put aluminum foil on it and bake it in the oven at 350 degrees until it's done. Then you take the foil off, and the cheese should be melting across the top. Turn the broiler on, broil till it looks like that. Don't move. I think some more friends are coming over to eat. We'll be right back. This is going to be so good. Okay, here's what we did today. That lovely supper at a skillet, which my family calls goulash, the rice-a-roni using whole grain pasta, and that yummy mac and cheese. Have you ever wondered why your northern relatives love to stand and breathe deeply and talk about how good the air is when they come down home for the family reunion? It's because down home there are plenty of trees and lakes that provide some of the best air you ever want to breathe. The air that we breathe contains positively or negatively charged molecules. The ones with a positive charge, or the bad ones, are abundant in densely populated cities, on the freeway, and in poorly ventilated areas.
The ones with a negative charge, or the good ones, are found in abundance right after a good rain or where there are trees, lakes, forests, rivers, beaches, and waterfalls. This negatively charged air is refreshing, makes you feel better, purifies the blood, soothes the nerves, helps digestion, brings sound, refreshing sleep, and helps to rid the body of impurities. So quit taking this down-home air for granted. Go outside, find some trees, and breathe deeply. It will make quite a difference in the rest of your day.
Welcome back. Doesn't it look great? I wish you could be here to taste it, but you can't. My friend Nancy is here, so she'll taste it with me, and maybe you can go and make it yourself and invite me to your house. I would love to come. We're going to go ahead and get some right now. Oh my goodness, Melissa's here. That must mean it's time for us to go. I thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you will be able to practice this in your home, because when we do it here in Donna's kitchen, we're always cooking up good health. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. You want to play? Shot. Man! Oh, man. Huh? They told me to do that.
Did I really do it?
They're all here. I know the party started.
Tape is rolling. Counting it down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Did you know I get to the end of it and then I'm thinking of everything they said? Cooking up good health now. Wait a minute. Cooking up good health now. Wait a minute. Hold my mule.